What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Faithful Fanatic Show. As always, I am one half of your host, Dylan. You can find me on Twitter at DylanJD98. Of course, my faithful co-host to my right, Matt McGinty. You can find him on Twitter as well at Matt_McGinty. And today we have a very special guest. I'd even like to call him a friend of the show now, ESPN's own Paul Hembekides. You guys might know him as Sneaky Hembo. Hembo, what's going on, man? Thanks for coming on again.
Yo, you guys do a great show. It's good to be here, and I am so incredibly enthused to be an Eagles fan right now. The second half of the season was extraordinary. It sort of came out of nowhere for me. Like, the conversation has changed so much. And when you couple that with what has happened to our old friend Carson Wentz in Indianapolis, like right now, I'm in sports heaven. Like, I don't know if the Eagles are going to win or lose this game on Sunday, but it already feels like I've won the Super Bowl based upon what's happened in Indy for the last couple of weeks. So maybe that makes me a masochist. I don't know, but I'm here for it.
A minute and a half into the show, ladies and gentlemen, and he's already crucifying Carson Wentz. But he used to be Carson Wentz's biggest fan. I don't know if anyone knows that. Little sidebar there. But listen, man, let's get into that game on Sunday. Before we get into any of the specifics, any of the details that you're looking at in this game, what's your overall feel heading into it? Like, where's your confidence level at on this Thursday?
I'm not confident that the Eagles are going to win. They're playing a Tom Brady quarterback team on the road. They're an underdog by more than a touchdown. They're, in the minds of most people that I talk to, at least on our network, the worst or the second worst team amongst those that made the playoffs. I think a lot of people just sort of feel like the Eagles are happy to be here. And the fact that they made the playoffs in a rebuild year constitutes a success. And in some sense, I feel that way. But I'm a lot more confident than most of those people in the fact that I think the Eagles are going to move the ball. I am supremely confident in the trajectory of this offense, specifically the performance of the offensive line. So I would say if there's one concern I have, at least early on in the game, it's likely to be if Tampa can starts off to a big lead, does Nick Sirianni go away from what's worked for so long? Mm-hmm. He's a rookie head coach. Is the moment going to be too big for him? Is the moment going to become too big for Jalen? My opinion is that the answer to both of those questions are no, because there's such a tried and true formula here for this team over the last couple months. So I'm actually really confident the Eagles are going to move the football. And thus, I think we're going to sort of see a reasonably high-scoring game. The Eagles are not going to get their drawers pulled down. I feel strongly that 8.5 is too many, and that the Eagles are going to have a reasonable chance to win this game in the fourth quarter.
Quick question, basically about last week. Is this the team you wanted to see? Did you want to see the Buccaneers, or did you just want to see the Rams? And I guess you could throw the Cowboys in that mix as well. Who did you really want to see this week?
Well, I would have preferred to play the Rams just because even though their roster is better right now, their quarterback is capable of losing you a game. Tom's not going to do that, obviously. But I think if you remove the Tom Brady of it all, just for a moment, the Bucs are pretty compromised right now. And so this is sort of the draw that I expected. And then looking at the Week 18 matchups, it seemed like the Eagles were something like an 80% chance to play Tampa, regardless of how things shook out. So that's why I had no issue sitting Jalen Hurts. That's why I had no issue with the Eagles opting to play their backups for a lot of that game. And that's why I chuckled so hard when I think at the end of the first half of that game, I saw Dak Prescott threw like whatever it was, his third or fourth touchdown pass and celebrate like he had just won the Super Bowl. Yeah. But I guess if you're the quarterback of the Cowboys, that's about as close as you've gotten.
How worried are you about the slow starts that have kind of compromised with Jalen Hurts? He kind of sometimes looks like he almost needs to get into like a very solid rhythm to get things going. How worried are you about that for Sunday?
I think the game script this weekend is vital. I think this is a game that we'll know maybe even as early as halfway through the first quarter whether or not the Eagles are going to play 60 competitive minutes of football. So here's the thing. I actually believe that the Eagles are well positioned for this game because they're so well rested. I generally speaking believe that. I mean, I guess it sort of varies by team, but the rest versus rust debate's always one that fascinates me. Right now, I'm looking at the Eagles as being one of the most rested teams in the sport, given the fact that they had a late bye, given the fact that they didn't play a lot of their starters last week, and given the fact that Jalen Hurts has not had to put a lot of stress on that ankle since the injury. I think they're in a pretty good spot. And when you also couple that with how banged up the Bucs are, that's a big advantage for the Eagles, even though they're playing this game on the road. But there is no question. If the score is 13-0 Bucs, say, after the first quarter, and Jalen's going to have to throw it 40 times, I think you guys would agree with me. That's worst case scenario. That isn't to say that the Eagles have to sort of mount a big lead just to give themselves a chance. I actually think they can play sort of drive for drive with Tampa, at least for a while. But if you build yourself an early deficit and running the football on first down doesn't really become an option anymore, I don't really think they stand much of a chance at all.
So let me follow up with that real quick. So Git mentioned the slow starts and specifically like Jalen. It's not that I know some Eagles fans get lost with the Eagles passing a little bit heavier in the beginning of the game. Run the ball, run the ball. He's still running the ball a ton, and he's running it more than he's throwing it.
Yeah.
But do you kind of attribute that to Nick trying to force, the reason trying to get Jalen into an early rhythm early on? It doesn't work sometimes, so then you see the run-heavy offense come out. Would you like him to try to do that on Sunday, or are you saying F that, run down their throats?
B. I would much prefer the Eagles establish the run early. Like, I'm an analytics guy. I don't believe that you necessarily need to establish the run in order to set up the pass, in order to set up the play action pass on balance, like, for the average NFL team. I think for this team, it does make something of a difference. And if the Eagles can find a way early in that game to put together a couple long drives for which the run game is the foundation, I do think it will provide Jalen Hurts a much better chance to succeed. Like, I get the idea of trying to give him some gimme throws early in the game, but this is not a kid in his first or second start.
Right.
We're not expecting there to be any obvious reason why he won't be able to make layups in this game. Like, to me, the quarterback rhythm thing matters much less than just calling your best stuff, right? And if you're going to script the game and you're going to script the first 15, 20, 25 plays, whatever it might be, it should be mostly stretch run, and it should be stretch run to set up play action, some quarterback, boot stuff, some design quarterback run. To me, so long as you're staying away from Vita Vea in the middle, I actually think the Eagles are going to have a lot of success in running the football, and the numbers back that up too. So long as teams have stayed away from like those up the middle rushes against Tampa, they've had a lot of success against that rush defense, which right now I think is living more on reputation than performance.
All right. You kind of already answered my next question, but I'll try to rephrase this a little bit.
Sure.
So obviously it was going to be, do you think the Eagles can run the ball successfully against the Bucs? Talking to you last night, hearing you now, I know your answer. You think they have, a pretty good shot of doing that. If they cannot, if they run into this team, with Vita Vea anchor in the middle of that defensive line, and they just can't establish the run early at all, do you think Jalen can take advantage of a weaker, I guess, Bucs secondary, we can call it, and have success through the air on Sunday?
Maybe more than we might think, because I do think the Bucs secondary is pretty compromised. But to me, it's less about Jalen than it is about the receivers. Like, to me, Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert are going to have to play huge in this game. They're going to have to win one-on-one. I'm not that worried about Jalen, say, being accurate, or like, I think those stereotypes he's debunked a lot of, and I think that so long as Devontae Smith and Goddard and some of the other wideouts can create separation, I think he's going to hit. I think this is a huge test for Devontae Smith, a huge test for Quez, a huge test for Dallas Goedert, because if those guys can win one-on-one, I think Jalen can put the ball in their hands. And if he's able to do that to any degree, it will obviously set up the run game. Now, obviously, I prefer that, to be able to figure that out in reverse. But if you look at Jalen Hurts' completion numbers this year, like his performance jumped considerably year over year in that respect. And even if you compare him not only to himself last year, but to quarterbacks around the league, he was a lot more accurate than fans around the country still realize, at least in my opinion. All that being said, the Eagles are going to run for 200 yards in this game. I think they're going to get 200. I think they're getting 200, bro. And the reason I think so is, I'll give you two reasons. One, I texted you about this last night, and I want to circle back because I think it's a massively important note. So the Buccaneers last year, the whole season, allowed 4 games of 100 rush yards. We know they were dominant. This year they've allowed 8, okay? Twice as many. And we know that Vita Vea in the middle is a freaking hotel, right? He is unmovable in the middle of that defense. But when you run at the Bucs, anywhere aside from right up the middle, which is a majority of the rush game, of course, teams are averaging 5.2 yards a pop against those guys. That's 29th in the NFL. That's the number 29 rush defense in the NFL when you don't run the ball straight into the hotel. All right, that is their average performance. The Eagles are a superior run team. The Eagles are like the best run team in the league by a long shot over this, the back half of the season. The Eagles are going to be able to average 5 or 6 yards a carry in this game, so long as they stick with it. And that's why the first quarter is so important, because if they elect to do that and play the long game, they're going to have worn out this defense by the end. I'm confident in saying so. I think they'll play fast when Vita Vea is off the field to keep him off, and play slow when he's on because you're going to eat up that clock to keep Tom Brady off of it. But I'm telling you, man, the idea that the Eagles aren't going to run the football, the only way that doesn't happen, the only way they can't run the football is, like you said, Maddie, if they get off to a sort of maybe a double-digit deficit early and they're forced to play uphill. But so long as they stick to it, the Eagles' offensive line is the best unit in this game. And so long as they lean on it, I think they're going to have a lot of success. That doesn't mean they win the game. But if you outrush your opponent in the playoffs, you win 3/4 of the time. And if the Eagles can get to 200, which is my number, I give them a coin flip chance to win at least.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be my follow-up to that. Like, do you think they'll be looking to take advantage of when he's off the field to kind of up-tempo, hurry up, and not allow any substitutions to come in? So it'll definitely be something to look for.
One more point there. Obviously, Vea is a big part of it. He can't play 60 snaps a game. You know, he's a tank. But JPP and Shaq Barrett and Levante David are also banged up. I mean, the opportunity to make those guys play fast, the opportunity to keep those guys on the field for 60 or 65 snaps is a massive data point here too. The Bucs defense was the biggest reason they won the Super Bowl last year. The Bucs defense has not shown up here over the last month. Tom Brady has carried that team with a bunch of no names, throwing the football to, at least, by and large. This defense can be had in a way that the public has not caught up with. If you watched any of that Jets game, if you watched much of what happened last week, that opportunity exists for the Eagles. I just need Nick to stick with it.
Yeah, I mean, I had Michael Carter starting in my fantasy championship because of injury, and then he got injured too. All right, last question before I throw it back to Ginn. Who do you think is the more important play caller for the Eagles on Sunday? Nick Sirianni or the other side of the ball we haven't talked about yet, Jonathan Gannon?
B, final answer, and I'll tell you why. I actually think that, I'm sure you're not surprised to hear me say this after that spiel, I think the Eagles can get 30 in this game, or at least close to it. I think that the Bucs could get 40, and that's because the way the Eagles play, two high shell, rush 4, is the exact kind of defense that Tom Brady has just absolutely shredded throughout his career, and we know he's not going to force stuff down the field. You know, if the Eagles are playing as good a quarterback, but say a more aggressive one, I might feel decent about that perspective. But if the Eagles' defense if the Eagles are going to stop them at all, they're going to have to generate pressure with 4. They're going to have to occasionally hit on a blitz, and they're going to have to trust their corners to be able to handle Mike Evans, and they're going to have to trust their safeties or linebackers, whomever, to be able to cover Gronk one-on-one too. You know, you can't.
Oh boy.
Obviously, like the big play aversion that the Eagles defense has played with very successfully this year is probably its most redeeming quality. It's kept their yards per play tally down, and that's a huge part of their sort of coming on the second half of the season. But if you look at the stats on the aggregate, they're a pretty average unit because they've not played well against teams with good quarterbacks. I tweeted this week a list of the quarterbacks that they've beaten and lost to, and you're talking about night and day there. So that I think John Gannon is maybe the single most important person in this game, because if the Eagles sort of stick to what has worked for them, or at least what his philosophies are, I think Tom Brady's going to get, reach the red zone 6 or 7 times, out of 10 or 11 drives.
And he's been perfect in the red zone this year?
He's money. And that's a great, Gronk is the best red zone player in NFL history. So, if I'm going to give them 6 or 7 red zone drives, they're going to hang 35 or 40 on us unless the Eagles, obviously, either win one-on-one matchups or have something in their bag that we've not seen. To me, as far as the players are concerned, yeah, I think the matchup, with Mike Evans is massive, and Darius Slay matters a lot there. Obviously, like I mentioned, Gronk, especially in the red area. To me, Fletcher Cox and Hargrave, that's statistically, the area in which Tom Brady struggles the most is interior pressure. We think of Brady as a guy who struggles with edge pressure because of what the Giants did to him in the Super Bowl.
Right.
But those are anecdotal examples. The research says that Brady is most I would describe it as he gets pocket claustrophobia, right? So if you can find a way to sort of press the pocket rather than allow him to manipulate it with sort of the edge rush, that's the key for the Eagles in this game. If they can get him off his mark, he goes from being the best quarterback that ever lived to somebody that's almost a liability.
So let me ask you a personnel question, or offensive personnel, I should say. Outside of Jalen Hurts, who's the most important offensive name? And let's say let's say a skill player. I don't want to say an offensive lineman either.
Okay. Let's see here. I think I think based upon the opportunity for explosion, I would say it's Devontae. If you're going to beat Brady in this game, especially if you think he's going to score as many points as I do, you're not going to be able to just do it running the football. I think the Eagles are probably going to have to hit 5 explosives in the game to win. If they're going to hit 5 explosives in the game to win, 2 or 3 of them are going to obviously have to be in the pass game. Devontae Smith is the player likeliest to do that. He's also the likeliest player on the outside to be able to give you anything with volume, right? I don't know how many targets we'll see him hit. And I've always said, you guys know this, that for Jalen, the yards per completion matters a lot more than the yards per attempt, because the combo of the run game and the gash downfield is really the formula that works best for this team. Devontae Smith's going to have to win one-on-one, like I said, and thus I think he's probably the person for whom is the best answer to that question. But and digging through some more of the numbers this week, I've been really impressed with Quest. Like, I've been really impressed with the efficiency that he has played with, and the connection that he and Jalen have, at least on paper. We've obviously seen it plenty of watching the games. I think it's sort of underrated. Like, I don't think he's a 2 by any stretch, but he could pop this game open in a way that very few guys on the roster could. So that's sort of a cop-out answer to me. Devontae's going to have to probably approach 100 yards if they're going to win this game, because you're going to have to get some sort of explosion through the air. And thus, I think he's probably the answer to your question.
Obviously, I'm sure you saw the clip of Miles Sanders in practice today. Nothing on his hand. I guess I'll just say, how important is that Miles Sanders is most likely going to be ready to go this weekend?
Reasonably. I mean, you guys know my opinion on this. Running backs don't matter. The run game does. The Eagles have demonstrated this year that their scheme and their downhill blocking is far and away more important than who's running the ball. I mean, look, if Jonathan Taylor was our back this year, he probably would have rushed for 3,000. But the combo of Jalen changing the numbers and then those guys blocking in the run game, to me, matters a lot more than how healthy Miles Sanders is. Like, to me, so long as you have fresh legs back there, those guys have been paving the way. Like, the Eagles rushing tally before contact, which I tweeted a few weeks ago, is just ridiculous. I mean, the Eagles are top half of the league rushing team this year. If you only count the yards that the offensive line has generated by itself before the ball carrier is contacted, it's completely ridiculous. So I'm not going to get hung up on that part of the run game. To me, it's like I want to see the push of the line of scrimmage early on that game to see how much they're moving it, and if they're moving it, I mean, you or I could be running the ball, I think, reasonably effective. Like, that's the best. Like, the Eagles' offensive line, the effectiveness of it this year and the way it's come on, it can't be overstated. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they have at least 3 all pros on that line right now, and when they play collectively as a unit, it is a sight to behold, and that's why I'm so confident they have a chance to put up points.
All right, you hit on this matchup a couple minutes ago, and something I asked you about the other day. Do you like the idea of Darius Slay traveling around the field following Mike Evans? Like, normally we're all for that. Or do the Eagles need to mix up coverages and disguises and looks? It's such like a bad question, because we're talking about the GOAT who's seen every look and disguise imaginable. It doesn't really matter what you throw at him if you can't get pressure. But what's your thought process there? Do you just lock up their number one target with Slay, or do you throw different stuff at them?
I mean, I like what I saw, from Slay against Evans when they played during the regular season. So thus, I have no problem. I mean, obviously, Avante's played. I mean, his coverage numbers are really good this year too. Mm-hmm. Mike Evans, I'm gonna say this again. I think Mike Evans and the Gronk factor, like, it's gonna come down to the red zone a lot. I think the Eagles are gonna give them a lot of stuff underneath, and I think Darius Slay can effectively cover Mike Evans in that area of the field. I think we're likely to see a lot of those like 6, 8, 10, 12-yard passes that drive us crazy when they're playing behind the sticks. Like, I think the sticks are huge in this game, obviously. But like, at some point, like, you're gonna have to trust your personnel, right? Like, I like, this is not week 10 against the Raiders. Like, this is the playoffs. You lose, you go home. The Eagles are, because at least from the numbers that I care about, because the Tom Brady's performance is so much more closely correlated with pressure than coverage. I'm not even that concerned about that. To me, like, if the Eagles can play the sticks in this game, they're just going to have to unleash those guys along the line. And if that means blitzing sort of out of character, I guess I'm kind of willing to take that chance, as crazy as that might sound. So you got to be. Like, you just – it's not – like I said, like, during the regular season, I'm fine with you sort of applying a philosophy. You've had 2 weeks to prep for this. You've had 2 weeks to prep for this game. You've known the Bucs were going to be your team. You've seen them once this year already. You're playing the greatest quarterback that ever lived. You have to take advantage of the top-end players on your roster. Like, the Eagles, for much of the year, I felt like Jonathan Gannon was sort of like scheming and play calling. Like, he didn't trust his own team,
Yeah.
And and that's how Nick Sirianni was calling plays for the first half of the season on offense too. That's not going to work here. Like, you got to the playoffs, you've been a reasonably good team the second half of the season, and just because you've not beaten a quarterback of Brady's caliber doesn't mean you can't do it. It also doesn't mean that you don't have defensive players that can show up. To me, like, you have to show enough trust in your players to be able to put Slay on an island with Mike Evans once in a while, send a fifth pass rusher, double Gronk in the slot, whatever, and sort of take your
100%.
chances. That's football. That's football.
You have to get up and be physical with these wide receivers at the line of scrimmage in this game. Like, I loved earlier in the year, like, playing, the Cowboys or playing the Chiefs when we got torched up and down the field for 7-7-7. And the announcers would be like, this is Jonathan Gannon's philosophy. Keep everything in front of you. Who cares if you're keeping everything in front of you if at the end of the possession it's 6 points no matter what? Right? Like, you got to be okay with Scotty Miller possibly beating you over the top one time. You got to take that risk. It's ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. If you're playing most any other team, I would say if you played that way, you might get away with it because you might be able to play bend but not break, Jim Johnson style in the red zone, and they might average 2 to 3 yards a drive. I don't see that happening. I mean, Mike Evans is a red zone monster. Gronk is a red zone monster. So if you're going to play it soft until you get to the red area, I think you're ceding too many points. I do. Now you can still play this, sort of selectively, right? You don't have to go for broke, throughout the game, because if you do that, Evans is going to bust you open, and that's going to happen. But I also think that because you are dealing with only one premier receiver now in Mike Evans, you can't devote more resources there for a lot of the game. Like, you definitely can. Because I mean, everyone else Brady's going to be throwing the ball to in this game. They're going to be guys you can tackle within 3 yards. You're not going to see a bunch of yak, or at least you shouldn't. So it's a catch-22 for Gannon. My opinion is that Slay is going to have a huge responsibility in this game, and there's no question about it. And he's going to have to play like 1 out of 5 plays. They're going to have to be more aggressive in some way than they're otherwise comfortable.
Let me flip it to the other side of the field. You talked about red zone trips, giving up too much. We know when you play these great quarterbacks, the Tom Brady-led team, you have to, when you get into the red zone, you have to come away with 6. You're not going to beat Tom Brady with field goals, right?
Yeah.
Are you looking for Nick Sirianni to be aggressive early on in this game? If the Eagles' first possession in the game have a 4th and 2 at Tampa's 18, are you taking the points, or are you looking to pick up that first down and trot on for 6?
Given my lack of confidence in the defense, I don't think the Eagles should punt the ball more than 3 times in this game. I mean, if things are going well, anytime you're in plus territory and you hit 4th down within 3, 4, or 5 yards, you have to sort of dance with the girl that brung you. I mean, you have this behemoth of an offensive line. You have a 250-pound quarterback that can deadlift 650 pounds. You have good enough running backs to get the job done, and you also have a top 5 tight end in the sport. You have to have a 4th and short package that you're comfortable going to multiple times per drive. I mean, if you're going to beat Brady in this game, it's going to, like, you want Brandon Staley, sort of, playing Madden for you. That's how I see this, at least. I mean, you're not, like, the objective here isn't to cover, right? The objective here is to win. And like, I think Brady's just as likely to go on a 90-yard drive as he is a 60-yard drive. Right. So if you're at 4th and 4 on the 39-yard line, this is a great question. If you got the 4th and 4 on the 39-yard line, you go for that if it's the first drive of the freaking game. It also sends a message too. So I'm not to me, I'm an aggressive guy to begin with. Like, you play to win, and especially if you're playing at something of a disadvantage. I do agree with you fundamentally about the red zone efficiency and that mattering a lot. Obviously, all the other things that matter too. With Brady, like, Brady's lost 11 times in the playoffs, right? His team hasn't won the turnover battle in any of those 11 games. That matters a lot here, obviously. Field position's been huge in Brady's losses too. So the Eagles are going to have to try and find a way to win special teams, even though that's not exactly been a specialty for theirs this season. Aside from the kicking game, and Brady's teams have been outpossessed by like 40, 45 minutes in those 11 losses too. And the Eagles have the run game to be able to make that work. So, like, all the football cliches that you hear that the national people say, do apply to this game, because they sort of apply to how Brady has performed historically in playoff losses. The Eagles actually do have a formula for making it happen. But I think your question about aggression is phenomenal. Like, if they can play 3rd and manageable, then they should go forward on 4th down a bunch. Right. And that obviously puts a huge onus on how, whether or not you can win on 1st down.
Right. And I just feel like something you saw 2 weeks ago against Washington or whatever, like, I want the aggression. I'm with you. But let's not on 4th and 2, 4th and 1, line up in the gun and bring Jordan Howard in for the first time of the game and try to run him straight up the middle of the line of scrimmage. Like, let's not do that, Nick. But I'm on board for
That's
the
why the
call.
package matters a lot to me. So this is what I want to say. This is my favorite thing that coaches do, and I'm hoping Sirianni does it. When you're in plus territory and you got 3rd and 1, you got 3rd and 2, take a shot. Take a shot. Because if you got a 4th and 2 play in your bag and you got Devontae 1-on-1 on the outside, with whomever, that's a great opportunity for you to try and win the game, win the play big. That's 3rd and short, big here, because you can create an explosive play there, knowing that you have a 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 play in your bag. That's smart coaching too. The Eagles don't have to necessarily play station to station in this game. If they can average, say, 6 yards a play on first down, they won't have to.
100%. All right, man. A lot was just on package there.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on Sunday's game? Do you have a prediction, or are you standing pat till Sunday rolls around?
I'll pick the game. I picked the game on with Mikey Miss today. I'll pick it here too. I wrestled with this a lot yesterday because as I was doing my research, and I texted you last night because I was so geeked out, I've convinced myself that the Eagles not only can win this game, very well could. This is not I wouldn't view this as a pipe dream. If Pittsburgh beat Kansas City this weekend, I would view it that way. This game is not that. You look at how these teams have performed on balance since they last played, and the Eagles are 90% as good as Tampa. Tampa's banged up. As I mentioned, the Eagles are well rested. The way to beat Brady in the playoffs is to do the one thing the Eagles do better than any team in the NFL, and over the second half of the season, do as well as any team in the NFL has done in years, and be able to possess the ball and run the football with a high degree of volume and efficiency. What I just don't believe in, and this is why I have to pick Tampa to win the game outright, is the Eagles' defense. This is a game in which not having Brandon Graham is going to be massive. This is a game in which not having sort of a Swiss Army knife linebacker or safety to be able to cover Gronk one-on-one is going to be massive. So what I think is going to happen here is that we're going to be all geeked up because the Eagles are going to run the football. They're going to move the ball. They're going to score early in this game. And the Eagles, like I said, can get to 30. But I've not seen – there's no data to me that demonstrates that the defense is likely to limit what Tom Brady can do. Now, the Bucs are banged up, like I mentioned. So Brady's going to have to rely a lot on Evans and Gronk. But those are two guys that are probably going to go to the Hall of Fame someday. The other thing the Bucs have going for them is the fact that they have an offensive line that has played more than 1,000 snaps together this season. The O-line continuity there is phenomenal. And Tom Brady still is the best quarterback in the sport when he's operating from a clean pocket. So honestly, what it comes down to is do a handful of the Eagles' best players on defense play up and win one-on-ones? And I'm not going to bet on that to happen against the greatest football player of all time.
Let me ask you one more thing real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Do the Eagles necessarily need to play a perfect game to win, or they just have to play well? Maybe the Bucs just don't have to play. They play an average game. Let's say the Bucs play an average game and the Eagles play a great game. Can they win the game that way?
Yeah, I think if the Bucs play their C, I think they got a more than +1 letter grade though. If you're going to give the Bucs a C, I think the Eagles got to play an A- game. And mostly, I think what it comes down to in large part is how clean a game they play. I'm not that worried about how many yards per attempt Jalen averages necessarily. I'm not even that worried about how many Tom does. If you can create an extra possession or two for yourself and you can limit those on that's to me the game. If you're not going to beat the Eagles will not win this game if they lose the turnover battle. I know it's corny and cliche. I did all the research again. I told you 0 for 11 in that respect. The Eagles are going to if you just check boxes here. If you can outrush them, you're probably going to win time of possession. And if Jalen can play a clean game and you can find a way to come up with one takeaway on defense somehow, I think the Eagles have a coin flip chance to win the game. And look, you're playing the Bucs. The Eagles, 2 months ago were a team that none of us believed in.
Right.
That's a pretty freaking good place to be in.
That draws up another question we talked about a week ago. Does that play anything into it? Like a team that's got nothing to lose, I don't want to say are dangerous, but they are a little bit dangerous because, like you said, they're not supposed to be here. They're happy to be here. They're not supposed to be here. The Bucs are the defending champs at home, got all this drama going on. Does that play into it at all? Is there any dangerous factor there?
Yeah, because they don't know better.
Exactly.
Some of the teams that crap the bed in the playoffs are teams that have that muscle memory of having failed before, right? I'm not fearful that the moment's going to be too big for Jalen Hurts, and I'm not fearful that the moment's going to be too big for the coach either. Remember, the 2017 team, for as good as that team was, they didn't have a lot of playoff experience on that roster. Nick Foles took them to heights that none of us could have imagined. They were an underdog in all of those games, right? And the Eagles have covered in 10 of the last 11 games they've played in the playoffs as an underdog. Obviously that's spanning, regimes and quarterbacks and coaches and all that stuff. But we've seen it here all the time. Like the fan base has rallied behind this group, and they play in such a way that I think could be challenging. Like I think back to that game that the Bart Scott can't wait game against the Patriots, right? Like that's what, like, that team reminds me of this one a little bit, right? You got a young quarterback that can just do enough. That's what Mark Sanchez was at that point in his career. They can run the ball down your throat. The difference is that the Eagles don't have that kind of defense. But the Eagles' offense is as good as the Jets' defense was that year, and that there's a chance, based upon what we've seen the last 6-8 weeks, the Eagles' offense is the best unit in this game. Think about that, considering who's quarterbacking the other team. But again, if you watch the last two games the Buccaneers played, I think you'd agree with me that that's at least on the list of options.
All right, man. Well, we'll see. Sunday is definitely going to be interesting. Just put me away early. Like, don't get, like, you remember the New Orleans game in 2018 when they got a 14-0 lead early? Cravon LeBlanc, Skin's favorite defense player ever, picked off Drew Brees, and it's like, oh, they're really going to do this.
Well, I mean, they would, if Alshon Jeffrey catches that slant, the Eagles are back-to-back Super Bowl champions.
Don't do that. No, don't be one of those guys. Oh God.
Then we're talking about Nick Foles going to the Hall of Fame. Anyway, I feel better about this game than most. I can't pick the Eagles to win the game outright in good conscience. Although I think hitting the Eagles on the money line is a reasonably good bet based upon the matchup stuff. I think we'll know really early if the Eagles can sort of look the part early. If they can't, I think it sort of looks a little bit like Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, in a few of their playoff games with him, where like they just could never sort of get the helicopter off the ground.
Right. All right, man. Well, once again, appreciate you coming on. And hopefully this journey can continue a little bit further into the postseason, and we'll talk soon. But Hembo, thanks so much again for coming on, guys. Check him out on Twitter at Paul Hembo. And have a great night.
Later, boys.
Later. There we go. Again, it's a lot of statistics in there, bro. A lot of shit to unpack.
I'm in, man. I really am.
You know what I love? You know what I love about it? He lays it all out. He lays all those numbers out, what they need to do to win. Me and you are sitting here like, I'm in. They're gonna win. And even after all those numbers, he himself is like, nah, they can't. They're not gonna win. I don't know. I feel like I'm too comfortable. I said this to you before the show. Last week, earlier in the week, I was kind of like, dude, Tom is going to F us up. It doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. I'm just kind of like, every night I go to bed, I'm thinking, this is the way they could do it. This is the way they could do it. And I'm kind of comfortable just sitting back. Like, they are in this game, and they could definitely have a chance to win this game. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I just think there's so many things to unfold, and the biggest one for me is like, this is really Tom's like revenge game, and not necessarily because he's not playing the same core, he's not playing Nick Foles, he's not playing the same regime, but like he even stated it this week.
He thinks about it a lot, bro.
Talking about the tip pass, he said, every time I see an Eagles fan, I hear that. So, like he said, they might hang 40 on their heads, but hopefully we can hang 41. That would be cool, right?
Yeah. Listen, I think the biggest thing he said defensively, and this is where me and you can kind of just get into the game. Look, defensively, you do have to get pressure up front in the middle of the line of scrimmage, right? Like, I get it. Like he mentioned the Giants with O.C. Umenyiora and Michael Strahan and Justin Tuck and what they were able to do back in the day. We all think about the Brandon Graham strip sack. Well, where did that come from? Getting off the edge around, right? But if think about it. Tom Brady is 44 years old. He's never been a mobile quarterback. He's not a mobile quarterback now. Where would Tom Brady be more effective? Edge rushers coming around the edge, clean pocket, can step up, can navigate it, can deliver it with an empty pocket, or pressure right up the middle with Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave and Milton Williams, etc., right in his face. Don't let him set his feet. And make him get off his mark. Make him move, and then you kind of have something rolling there. I think that is really, really big today. I know a lot of people are on this Fletcher Cox train, and it is true this week. Like, Fletcher Cox has to ball out this week for the Eagles defensive line to be successful against Brady. And the other thing when we're talking about the secondary is kind of what I mentioned to him. Miss me with the philosophy we've used all year. Miss me with the bend but don't break. Miss me with keep giving them everything underneath. Miss me with that. Because like he said, you get down to the red zone versus Tom Brady, he's going to pick you apart. He's perfect in the red zone this season with Evans and Gronk. With that offensive line, you're not gonna stop it. Take your chances. They're depleted outside, Gint. They don't have Antonio Brown anymore. They don't have Chris Godwin anymore. Mike Evans is battling a hamstring injury, right? Press coverage, get physical with them at the line of scrimmage. And if they beat you one play, if they beat you 3 possessions later for a big play, so be it. They freaking beat you. It's football. You know, the wide receivers can win a battle here and there. They can pick up a chunk play. I'd rather that than let's keep everything in front of us. 7 yards, first down. 8 yards, run for a first down. 9 yards, touchdown a couple plays later. Like, no, that's not the game you're going to win, and you're going to be in for a long afternoon if that's what Jonathan Gannon tries to do.
I totally agree. You got to play, I know we use the term underdog mentality because of the 2017 team, but it's not that kind of underdog. You got to take some shots. You got to play some risks. And even on the offensive side, too, like you mentioned, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, take a shot. Like, what do you have to lose, man?
Right.
Like you mentioned,
especially
good.
Well, I have to cut you off, but I wanted to say, it obviously dependent on where you are on the field, right? Like if you have 3rd and 1 on your own 28, you're going to just try to pick up the first down. You have 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2 in a scenario where you know you're going for it on 4th down. Yes, you 100% look to take a shot down the field there. 100%.
No, you're absolutely right, and we'll see, man. You're playing Goliath, right? But they have flaws, and he kind of laid them out for you. And Eagles,
Goliath's cut, bro. He's cut up.
Yeah,
like
the Eagles, like you mentioned, the Eagles have the best unit in the game with the offense, with the offensive line, with the rushing attack. So we'll see.
Listen, it's like Rocky IV with Ivan Drago in the Russian one. He's cut, right? He's a machine at first. There's no beating him. Like you have no chance. You might die in this ring. Then he's cut. You realize he's human, right? The Bucs are cut up right now. Yes, they have the greatest of all time, anchoring their offense right now, right? It's a scary thought. We know what he can do with less than talented wide receivers on the outside. We've seen him win Super Bowls with it before. This defense is beat up in the linebacker position. They're beat up in the secondary. Like Hembo said, they do not have the same rush defense they did last year, right? You can attack them in areas on their defensive line. They're beat up all over the place on skill positions on the offensive side of the ball. You can have a chance to win this game. I think the biggest thing, again, is what you want. Maybe your first question. Does a slow start scare you? You cannot get off to a slow start this week. It cannot happen. You will be put to bed by the end of the first half. You cannot allow this game to get down 10-0. 14-3. It can't happen. You know why? Because then Nick Sirianni is going to have to get off of that run first mentality, establish the run, and then Jalen and Quez Watkins and Jalen Reagor, they're going to have to find ways to win this ball game through the air, and I just don't see that happening. They have to they have to come out fast and strong, and they might even have to score first in this game, Gint, which is a scary thing to say.
You better hope they get the ball first.
I'll tell you what's so intriguing about this game, man. There's so much unknown. We have no idea what this team is still. They're a 9-8 they're a 9-8 team. They're a playoff team. They overachieved. I saw some really great things that I liked this year by the head coach, by the quarterback, right? But we don't know what they are because we know what the schedule and the quarterback play was down the stretch. When like he said, dude, when is the last time the Eagles played? Forget greatest of all time, but when's the last time they played a really good quarterback this season? I mean, okay, Dak, week 18 doesn't count, obviously.
Yeah, don't count. Probably what was it, Herbert?
Okay, that was November, bro.
Yeah.
It's the middle of January. So that's my point. We have no idea. Maybe this defense is better than what we saw earlier in the year. Maybe the personnel and Gannon got it figured out. Maybe they're healthier. Maybe they'll do some things differently. But any average to above average quarterback that we saw earlier in the year shredded this Eagles defense to a point where it was damn near historic, dude. Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, they tore this defense up with over 80% completion percentages each. Okay? And now now this defense and this unit has a lot of momentum and they got some swagger, right? And they got all the confidence in the world right now because the last month, a month and a half of football has gone their favor. I have no freaking idea what we're going to see on Sunday. We could see a massacre, or we could see a team that's like, wow, maybe the second half of the season was a little bit more like these guys, and they just had to figure it out as the year went on. It's nerve-wracking as all hell.
Yeah, it is, but it's not at the same time.
Why? And because we didn't expect to be here?
Exactly. I know it's very, like, I don't want to say the word loser mentality, but like 9-8, you got in, and everything looks up. If this was last year and they got in by the skin of their teeth and everything was looking down and we were kind of clinging on to hope of nothing, it'd be a different story. But everything looks up. So, again, we mentioned it. You're playing the greatest athlete of all time, not even the greatest football player, the greatest athlete that's ever lived. So that doesn't mean I'm wintering in defeat. If Jalen comes out and throws 4 interceptions, then I won't be like, oh,
we know how we
lost to Tom Brady, because we didn't lose to Tom Brady at that point.
We beat ourselves,
Yeah.
All right, again, before you switch segments here, what's your thoughts on this game? Because I feel like I know where you're headed. And also, listening to all the stats and everything that Hembo laid out, and obviously what you and I have discussed over this week, what's not a key, but what do the Eagles need to do to be successful? Obviously, we know run the ball. Well, like, what else do they need to do?
So on the defensive side of the ball, he mentioned a ton. It's Mike Evans and Rob Gronkowski. I think those two names kind of really, really stick out because everyone else is hurt. Chris Godwin's out, Leonard Fournette's out, and then not allowing their run game to really open up. Like we talked before the show. You said Ronald Jones and Keyshawn Vaughn can't kill you.
And Ronald Jones is doubtful.
Yeah, and they can't. Like, you have to make them one-sided. And even though the one-sided is the greatest athlete of all time, you have to try to make them somewhat predictable in a sense with them.
Right.
But those two guys can't go for 120 apiece.
Absolutely not.
3 combined touchdowns. It can't happen.
Something that you're not missing, but something to add on to what you just said is, if you can make them one-dimensional, if you don't allow them to have success on the ground, that allows Gannon and this defense to kind of pin their ears back and get after Tom Brady in a way they wouldn't be able to if Ronald Jones is busting up through the gap for 10 yards here, 12 yards here, 15 yards here. If they're able to establish the run against the Eagles early, the Eagles are going to be very, very hesitant to bring, extra pressures, to throw a safety, in the backfield after Brady. If they're able to slow that down earlier, if they're able to stop that, then later in the second quarter, early in the second half, you can really try to get after Tom and force some turnovers. So that is huge, man.
I'm so excited. I really am.
Hit me with it, bro. Hit me with the prediction.
It's a really sad prediction, but
I don't know. Let's see if this works. Ready? Hit me with it again.
I'm going to go with the Eagles lose 28-17.
What did you just say?
Actually, no, I'll go 31-20.
Eagles lose.
Yeah. I think
what did I play the sound for?
I don't know, because
I thought a positive answer was coming out.
I'll tell you what, if Hembo would have predicted they would have won, I probably would have got behind him because of all the stats of that. But the fact that he laid out all these stats, all these things the Eagles have to do, saying how he thinks he might be able to do them, and then he said, "I'm not going to pick him outright to win." I'm going back to what I told you before the show. I think it will be a close game. I think they'll keep it in reach, and then Tom will do what Tom does. With 4 minutes left, they'll score a touchdown, put it out of reach. Eagles have to try to throw 30-yard bombs on the field.
He's already got it playing through his head.
But I am so excited. Truthfully, it's gonna be a fun one Sunday.
It's gonna be a good day. I'm going to save my prediction for Sunday on Turf Talk for the pregame show. Especially because I haven't made my mind up yet. Because after listening to you and listening to him, and then all my own thoughts, I'll tell you something I didn't think I would say a week ago. They have a chance, and not just a slight chance. They have a pretty good chance. They don't have a great chance, but they have a pretty good chance to pull off this upset. And I'll decide Sunday morning, probably after 4 or 5 mimosas, and I'll be all banged up, ready to say Birds are winning. And I'm going to lay this out to everybody right now. You know how I've kind of been very tempered with this team this year, been very down on this team this year. Do not let them win on Sunday, because I will be the most annoying person following that, because the Birds are going to the Super Bowl after that. The Birds are walking straight into Lambeau. We just beat the GOAT. Aaron Rodgers chokes in the playoffs every year. You think we're not going to beat Green Bay now? Like, that's the mentality that's coming out if they win this game. All right, man, let's move on. Quick little Sixers talk before we wrap up this show. By the way, quick plug for everyone watching or that's going to watch. Sunday morning, 10 a.m., Scotty and I will be doing Turf Talk. It will be the biggest Eagles pregame show of the year. We got a lot of guests lined up. Guys, we're going to drop the link in the comment section. We're going to drop the link on our social media pages for you guys to pop in for, a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, however long you want to pop in. You can either come on the screen with like how we are right now, or you can just use the audio on your phone if you're not comfortable doing so, and just talk about the game with us. Give us your predictions, your bold takes, ask us any questions you got. We already have about 6 or 7 people coming on Sunday morning. So come on, have a drink. If you don't want to tune in like that, you can head on over to DSM Media's Facebook or YouTube page and hit up the comment section like Donald has here. Sorry, buddy, by the way. Didn't see your comment right as he was wrapping up. And then like Scotty is here on YouTube. Again, obviously the Sixers winning streak comes to an end last night against the Hornets. Of course, it's the first time I bet this on the Sixers in probably over their winning streak. And obviously we know how that played out, but what's your thought process? Where's your head at right now after Joel Embiid's on this 8-game tear, tying franchise records? Well, where's your head at right now with the Sixers team?
It's basically the same thing it's been all year, right? Joel's been utterly awesome. He's back to being a top 5 player in the game, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Probably like top 6, top 7, but that's for here nor there. Tobias is still subpar.
Yeah, Tobias's night last night was not.
Yeah.
Today's not the day we're going to defend Tobias Harris on the show.
No,
let's just say that.
Obviously,
today.
Maxey returns last night. Starts off scorching, like 8 points in the first quarter. Finishes with 10. Didn't really play that well.
The Twin Towers were out in Philly last night too.
And also his reasoning for that. Don't get me wrong. Tyrone said it right. When you're playing the Magic and you're playing bad teams, you maybe roll that out there, see if you can figure something out. But you're losing to the Charlotte Hornets, and you say we didn't know what else to do, so we put Andre Drummond and B on the floor. That's definitely
not to mention for a pretty long time.
Yeah, it's not what I want to hear. Dude, this team is so boring. Like Dylan is so boring to watch this team. It's the same thing every single night. If Embiid isn't a hero, it's a close game. And even if he does put up 41, sometimes it's still a close game. We're relying on a kid that isn't a true point guard to try to get a max player involved because he can't do it himself, and he's on a max contract.
Danny Green's a shell of himself from 2 years ago.
And then, of course, they boo him last night. He hits a 3. He brings up the booing thing again. The fans are going, I can't wait for
this team out. Like, you're right, dude. Not only are they somewhat boring, it's hard to say boring when they had won 7 in a row and they beat Brooklyn the way they did and Embiid. But I get what you're saying. It's the same song over and over again. It's like Embiid's fun as hell to watch. Maxey comes back, he can be fun to watch. But outside of that, they're just this plain or original song playing over and over again.
Untouchable Matisse Thybulle puts up a goose egg last
night. Let's talk about it, bro. Let's talk about it. So another thing, and real quick, not only are they kind of plain Jane right now, but like you brought up the Danny Green thing, and no, do I want to continuously have these talks about players versus the fans, because I think both sides are right and wrong at the same time. But like, again, shut up, Daniel, as Tyrone would say. Like, hold on, not just that. Didn't you just put up one of the worst stat lines ever in NBA history?
Well, no, did you see the stat correction?
Yeah, they gave him a steal, right?
That was so funny.
Okay, you still get the point.
I meant to quote that.
Right. And how many days later you're telling the fans not to cheer because you hit a 3? Like that's the point. They're somewhat becoming unlikable, dude. Like Toby does something good, That's like with Toby. What did you want them not to boo you last night? Like Toby had a stretch in the fourth quarter where he finished at the rim and then he hit a big three from Embiid, right? And it was like, okay, here he comes. And then literally like 2 possessions later, bricks a mid-range shot. Like, did you not want them to say anything? Let's pull up the numbers here. Tobias Harris, 17 points. It ended better than it was looking. He finished 6 of 14. Still shot, 40 odd % from the field. But at one point, Ginn, I think he was 3 of 12 or so, or 3 of 10 from the field. It wasn't looking good at all. He shot a little better down the stretch. But like, what do you want these fans to do, dude? This isn't a 2-game stretch. This isn't a 3-game stretch. You've been subpar to bad for a large portion of this season.
The thing is this too. It's Tobias Harris and Danny Green, 2 guys that have been around for such a long time. It's not 20-year-old
Right.
Tyrese Maxey and 20-year-old Isaiah Joe, the ones that are saying, don't boo me. Well, first of all, they haven't played to warrant a boo yet. These guys have, because these guys are expected to be veteran leaders. And they haven't been the best on the court. And I don't know what they're doing off the court in terms of leadership. I'm sure they're keeping the locker room together because it doesn't seem like there's been many issues. You're hearing issues in Atlanta. You're hearing issues in Boston. Mm-hmm. We haven't had any of that come out yet. So maybe they're keeping the locker room together. But the fan thing, I'm so done talking about it. I'm so done talking about what ifs with the trade scenario. Mm-hmm. I know after the Eagles season ends, whenever that is, maybe it's after the Super Bowl, but we're gonna have to talk about the Sixers a lot more. And
we got less than a month till the deadline, bro.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to basketball season kind of really kicking in if they're able to do something, swing a trade, maybe get some new faces in here. But Joel's still one of the most fun people to watch on the earth. And there's a couple other guys that are fun to watch. Obviously, Maxey's fun to watch, but I'm done looking at Matisse Thybulle in the dunker spot. Done looking at Tobias Harris brick 15-footers.
He's untouchable, bro.
I'm done Danny Green airballing threes. But again, I'm not writing them off. They're 2.5 games out of second place in the conference.
Yeah, no. Again, listen. What we just said, the boring
part isn't wins and losses.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's not wins and losses. It's not we're saying they're boring so they're bad or they're boring so they can't win. No, it's not. It's just like you said, outside of seeing Joel dominate every night, it seems like it's been the same thing for the last month of just average to bad basketball from the supporting cast for the most part. Seth, don't get me wrong. I kind of leave Seth out of this conversation because Seth's just Seth, dude. Like, yeah, some nights he doesn't shoot well and some nights he has 8 points, but I mean, dude's averaging literally a career high this year, and he's been awesome this year.
You have to love Seth solely off the way they got him. And
right. Exactly.
But like when Josh Richardson was good. Yeah. So, again, it'll be fun when we really crack down and start caring a little bit more when the Eagles end. But I'm excited to see something happen. Because I do think something happens. I don't think this is going to be the team after February 10th, even if it's minor pieces. But
there's no way, bro. Yeah, there's no chance.
Something new is going to be very, very fun to watch.
So let me ask you this. I know you don't want to keep talking trade packages, so we won't. I just want to ask you from both parties, not just the Sixers. We want Jaylen Brown. I said this to Scotty on Tuesday night. When you look at what's happening in Boston, dude, they're like literally tearing apart at the seams right now. And all the rumors are what? The duo's getting split up, right? Like that's speculation. Maybe it's not true, but you would have to imagine they have to change something, right? How does a trade not happen? Like, I know you yourself have, you don't love the idea of sending them to Boston because it's Boston and making Boston better. But, obviously we want Jaylen Brown. But, how does they're going to, do you get what I'm saying? The Sixers would obviously do it because Jaylen Brown has to be one of those dudes in their top 5, right? And Boston, what better package are you going to get now or in the offseason or next season better than, let's say, Ben Simmons and Matisse Thybulle?
Well, that's the thing. I don't necessarily think the Sixers have thrown that.
I'm not saying they have. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that's been proposed.
No.
But I'm saying, how does that not happen?
No. Yeah, if I'm Philly, I would. And if you're Philly and you think Jaylen Brown could put you over the top, could put you back into the Brooklyn,
contention,
Milwaukee, Miami group, yeah, I would offer that right now.
And if you're Boston,
well, that's the thing.
Not the best.
You have to look at my biggest thing right now, Ben, is he's not playing.
Yeah.
Why is a team even gonna I don't know the NBA tampering rules on how they can talk to Ben Simmons right now. Like, can someone be like, yo, are you gonna play if we trade for you? Like, how is this gonna work? Because
like you would need it signed. You would need it signed.
Yeah, like I need to know
if I'm traded, I'm playing. Yeah, exactly.
How does that work then? Can there be a fine towards Ben Simmons in the NBA? Because clearly, you're in the right headspace now that you're in Boston or you're in Atlanta or you're in Sacramento.
100%.
It's gonna be. I do like diving into trade packages, and it will be fun to do.
But it's just getting aggravating talking about the same dude over and over again.
And like Jaylen Brown and DeJounte Murray, like it's the two same names. I feel like, which is why like when John Collins came out, I was like, oh, that's exciting. Like it's a different name. It's Atlanta. John Collins
still wasn't the move.
That means Tobias has to go. Like if I hear Sacramento again and nothing is lead way, it's like, dude, the amount of times I've heard, oh, Buddy Hield and Tyrese Halliburton. I'm like, okay, then just do it because I'm hearing about that it might happen or something. So Sacramento wants Ben, but they don't want to give up anyone besides who's the last guy off their.
They want to give Marvin Bagley and Buddy Hield for Ben Simmons. Like, we really want Ben Simmons, but we won't give you X, Y, and Z.
We'll give you the guy we don't want to put in our rotation. You can have
yeah. Come on. Maybe we'll throw you Harrison Barnes if you're lucky.
Yeah.
No, I feel you, dude. And it's just when Scotty and I had the conversation the other day of Matisse Thybulle being a throw-in piece. And I think this is a quick conversation we can have to wrap it up. I think people need to get a grasp on the word untouchable. When I talk about the fan base.
One guy, it's untouchable.
No, so here's what happened. We had clipped the part where we were talking about the fans who deem Matisse untouchable, right? And we were having that conversation. We put it on social media. And a bunch of people started saying, Matisse is basically untouchable to me, but I do it for the right package. Well, that's not untouchable. That's just not trading him for a shit trade that's putting him in the conversation for the trade you're willing to do. Same here. When I say untouchable, I mean there are people out there on social media that do podcasts, whatever, that literally think I'm not moving him for anything to get a deal done.
Yeah. It's not
that's untouchable.
Yeah. And Joel Embiid is that.
Yes.
Tyrese Maxey is not that. Matisse Thybulle is not that. Tobias Harris is not that.
No.
And I could go on with the rest of the names on the roster.
We can name everybody.
No one is that besides Joel Embiid at this point.
Right. But my favorite thing again is here's what they want to do, right? And this is what I kind of lost my mind about. I want the Sixers aren't in championship contention right now. Why? Because they don't have enough. Okay. Now, you have to give to get in this league, in any league, to make any trade. You got to give to get in freaking fantasy basketball. Okay. So they want to keep what we got, but then they want to add a Jaylen Brown. They want to add a Bradley Beal. They want to add a Damian Lillard. Well, how? Are you adding in Matisse Thybulle with Ben Simmons? Nah, I can't trade Tease. He's 25 and he's that great defensively. All right, you want to throw? Then you got to put Maxey in the deal. Nah, I love Maxey. I can't do that. He's an up and coming superstar. Then what in the blue hell are you planning to do?
You're not taking Furkan.
Yeah, people don't care. That's the thing, dude. They all and then that's the best part. Then Daryl's being lazy. Daryl's not working the phones. Daryl's not doing his job. No, he is. You just want someone to just accept Ben Simmons and Shake Milton and get a 30-point per night scorer in the building. It doesn't work that way. So if I got to sacrifice Matisse Thybulle's fantastic defense on Steph Curry for one game, I got to do so. And that's another thing that Tyron brought. That's another thing people don't get in their heads. When it gets to the playoffs and it becomes a 7-game series, don't get me wrong. Is it nice to have? Yes, it is nice to have him off the bench, right? Is it nice when he shuts down Steph Curry for one night? Yeah, it is. But let's say you met the Warriors in a series, Gint. Shuts down Steph Curry for one game. Steph's dropping 30 to 35 in the other games.
He's going to average 32 points a game in the series regardless.
Let's say he straps up James Harden in Brooklyn for a game.
Yeah.
James Harden's going to have a 25-point triple-double every other game. You get my point?
No, 100%. And that's my biggest thing about everyone on the roster, because it's been that. We were talking last year, we were talking about the trade deadline, we were talking about Kyle Lowry. It was, well, we can't trade Maxey. Well, why can't we trade Maxey? Because and maybe we look back on it and we're like, oh, well, maybe Maxey turns into some superstar. you have to take your shot. If Jaylen Brown puts you over the top, you throw in the goose egg Matisse Thybulle.
Well, that's the point. So Maxi's this young up-and-coming stud, right, that we hope. Matisse is still 25, we hope. Guys, Joel Embiid does not have 4 to 5 to 6 more years for these dudes to grow into a role. So if you see, again, I know we hate saying the same name over and over again. Jaylen Brown's available. If you think Jaylen Brown and Joel Embiid paired together with the rest of this team would put the Sixers back in the conversation, you have to move one of the younger assets to do so. If it doesn't work, I'm not guaranteeing an NBA championship because we go out and get Jaylen Brown. But let me ask you again. They got a better chance with that, or they got a better chance with Maxey and Matisse?
Yeah.
And again, this isn't me saying let's trade Maxey or Matisse for 1 year of Jaylen Brown and go all in. No, this would be 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years of Jaylen Brown. You get what I'm saying, guys? Like, I feel like that's not sitting with people.
Yeah, no, I like it. And like you said, we're going to dive in. We'll dive into the packages and everything right after the football season when there's only the Sixers to talk about.
Yeah, Bill, because the MLB owners and the Players Association just want to keep bitching and moaning about their billions and millions of dollars that they get. The Flyers are an absolute dumpster fire right now. So you're looking good, dude. Your no hockey watching's looking good at the moment because I haven't watched.
No one else is watching it.
Yeah, I haven't seriously sat down and been excited for a Flyers game in a long time. They've kind of become like background noise to me. When there's nothing else on, I'll throw them on the screen, but that's it. So yeah, we are in full Eagles playoff mode right now. Guys, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Phaithful Fanatic Show, brought to you by DSM Media. Guys, if you're new to our channel, head on over to @DSM_media. You can find a link tree in our bio to every other social media platform available. We're also on Spotify and Apple Music as well. And bonus here, check out our pin tweet on @DSM_media. We are doing a major Eagles playoff giveaway. Winners will be announced. I know it says Friday. We're moving it to Sunday on the pregame show so we can announce the winners there live on the show. Prize one on TikTok. If you follow us, like the video that's pinned to our TikTok, and comment #DoSomethingMajor, you're entered for a chance to win a Devontae Smith framed picture and a Devontae Smith Black Eagles jersey. If you head on over to @DSM_media on Twitter and you follow us, retweet our pinned tweet, and comment or quote tweet #DoSomethingMajor, you're entered to win one of the Randall Cunningham Mitchell and Ness t-shirts or a Brian Dawkins Mitchell and Ness t-shirt. And on YouTube, if you follow us, if you subscribe to us on YouTube, like a video, and comment #DoSomethingMajor, you'll be entered to win for the Eagles 2021 playoffs t-shirt. Guys, for myself, for Gint, and for DSM Media, go Birds, and have a great night.